Welcome to Offset, Larry and the Big Man. Jay Caulfield, two-time Stanley Cup champion. I'm Larry Richard, along with Dave Ricchini, who's the mastermind of all the important data and has a unique insight to the world of sports.
Unique.
Does that
like it.
sound right?
Yeah. Some would say it's unique.
Right.
It's unique. It's a unique set. And he's the only one that has, like Nostradamus, the only one that had an idea.
Nostradamus, that's a good one.
Yep.
We want to thank One Team Media with Brian Hess's team, Mark Cuttington, Ryan Jorgen, and Logan Douglas. And want to thank Michael Spacciapoli from Odyssey Pittsburgh with 93.7 The Fan.
Thank you, Larry. And also Dave Rourke and Rourke Automotive, the Rourke Advantage, lifetime state inspections, lifetime oil changes. They do an outstanding job from beginning to end. Also, Tom Grillish and Henderson Brothers, thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it.
And that said, we are going to talk to Andrew Fillipponi from 93.7 The Fan, but got to get your first flash reactions to what transpired with the Steelers on Sunday night. Again, another national TV audience. Dave.
Yeah, the offense, obviously the story of the night, time possession, 22-25. Only one trip inside the red zone the entire game, 0 for 1. Even the Roman Wilson late touchdown came outside the red zone. 2 for 11 on third downs, lost the turnover battle. After winning it 6-1 the previous week against the Colts, lose the turnover battle, that's not a recipe for success for the Steelers offense.
They just look so much different on offense in particular. Defense wasn't playing that bad. I mean, they actually didn't give up the 2 points. And into the fourth quarter, the Steelers only had a field goal. And you're like, what happened to last week?
Yeah, I don't know what we're getting from week to week, right? I mean, I think, I don't know, I thought the on the Chargers side, just played a more, they were the aggressor at times, especially on the defensive side against the Steelers offense. And Aaron Rodgers could never get comfortable in the pocket. He didn't have much of a pocket, right? And then it was quick. You could tell he had to get out of it. A tough one to go in from a big win and a big game, and you lose, and now you bring everybody, which you understand, but we'll get into it later, but you do bring everybody. Cincinnati now all of a sudden says, well, we got a little life, right, again. So, tough one. Tough loss to be on national TV or a primetime game. Tough game.
Turning point in the game, Dave?
For me, it was the Aaron Rodgers interception in the second quarter when he intended it for DK Metcalf. R.J. Mickens picked it off. I just, I set the Chargers up with the short field at the 38, and with that game, the way the game was going, where it seemed to be touchdowns would be at the premium, to give them the ball there, and then they take it, and then basically use up the rest of the second quarter, score with 12 seconds left, Lad McConkey, nice route. Gave him a 2-score lead, which at that point just seemed insurmountable, so I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, I had a number of things, and Dave and I were off air talking about this a little bit before, but it's so funny. Can you really go to so early in the game and say a turning point? You had great field position right from the get-go and couldn't do anything with it, right? So that was one I thought about. I thought about the Boswell missed field goal because he doesn't miss. He's so good. And you could almost say, is this the day? But I'm going to go to the safety. I'm going to go that he got the safety that the Steelers took. I'm going to lean that way. And there are so many different spots. I think that's a real good one, a good point. But I look at that safety and realize because wasn't the normal looking, it was like a panic. It was panicky at the moment. So tough one. Safety for me.
Yeah, I agree. The safety, well, you could pick either one. They were both bad in terms of momentum shifts because early, Rodgers missed a touchdown with DK Metcalf. A couple of receivers dropped passes. Joey Porter missed a pick, which could have been pivotal. So
good point.
There are a lot of reasons. That said, let's talk about predictions from last week.
This is where I call him Nostradamus. This is where he's...
Jay said 27-20 Steelers, obviously, with
wrong.
25-10. It was the Chargers. You had 27-17. That's a big win for you. Ding, ding, ding. Dave,
you're going to get a hot dog from Yins or Dogs.
Eventually.
That's what it's going to get for you. That's what it
was last week, but you'll still like it. And then I said the Steelers would win 31-24. Wow. That was based on them scoring, even though they lost in Cincinnati. They scored a bunch of points. And, of course, previous week against the Colts, I thought
I would too. I did too. Let's also go with the idea that both their tackles are out of the game on the Chargers side. You know what that does to any team when especially your blind sides. To me, it just had no. That's on the offense side, and the defense still did. They played well enough that the Steelers should have done something and won, but no flow, no takeaways, no.
Give Greg Roman credit, the Chargers offensive coordinator. He made adjustments early on. You saw they weren't getting any offense, running the ball or throwing the ball down the field. He started throwing those quick screens to the wide receivers, kind of making them
Who else
play
did that? Cincinnati.
Yeah. And then
Joe
look what happened.
Flacco.
Kimani Vidal had success running the ball later on in the game up the middle. So
We're going to see
Yep.
Mr. Flacco, who's played for every team in the AFC except the Steelers, Sunday when the Bengals come to Acrisure Stadium. Who is your original Yinzer Dog player of the game?
I'm going to go. There's only one guy who deserves it. For me, it was Jalen Warren. He bored every time he touched the ball. It was hard working. It was hard yards. I know. I'm even the one where he leaped over the defender, but every other carry. I'm going to go with all the other carries because he got hit. They were coming hard. They were playing the game hard defensively. Jalen Warren for me was the one that was giving you hope and giving you better field position. They could never do anything to follow it up. To me, Jalen Warren is my injured dog of the week.
just want to point out that last week, Alex Highsmith won AFC Defensive Player of the Week and didn't win Yinzer Dog.
Hey,
So that's just a Joe's.
It
It is. We don't. It's
Because you mentioned his name, you did credit,
You did.
but it's funny when you go back and look at the stats and they picked him. Why not
Yeah.
right. I don't know.
Why not Peyton Wilson?
They should be watching this podcast before they pick.
Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. So
Who was your?
Well, I'm gonna throw out two defensive names: Highsmith, 2 sacks, 3 QB hits; Keanu Benton, 7 tackles, 2 for loss, and a sack. But then I go back to the success the Chargers had running the ball in the second half, which kind of put that game away. So I can't go with the defender. I'm going to lean in with Jalen Warren too. I like the way you ran the ball.
Yeah.
Right, tough yards, a lot of tough yards,
were
5
tough
yards a
yards.
carry.
nothing is more demoralizing to a fan base in a team when another team starts running it down your throat. But the offense gave them so little help. However, the only player on offense that stood out was Jalen Warren.
Yeah.
So
So he's going to get. So what's he going to receive, Larry?
the original Yinzer Dog tailgate package, I'm glad you asked, Jay. So you get the hot dogs, you get Stanley P. Kachowski, Kobasi, Babushka Mama, pierogies, and Yinzer Halushki in a tailgate package. Jalen, you have no idea the tremendous joy you will receive from this.
Congratulations.
Coming to you soon. That said, and I love this, notes from around the NFL. There's always one game where you go, how does that happen? Everybody on the planet thinks the Bills are going to beat the Dolphins. And not only do the Dolphins win, but they crush the Bills 30-16. How'd that happen? What's wrong with the Bills? I picked them to be a Super Bowl
When
winner.
I said there are multiple Super Bowl contenders that are laying eggs left and right. I mean, I Green Bay being one, but the Buffalo Bills, yeah, I think they went down there, weren't prepared to play. They weren't ready to go. Even the interviews after the game, like Josh Allen was very straight up and a great interview, but they were just defeated. It's almost like they didn't know what hit them. Honest to God, the weather impact and everything like that. I think it's harder for Miami to go up to Buffalo, maybe in the elements, than it should be for Buffalo going down in November to Florida. They just weren't ready to play. And I think as we've talked, there's been a theme. Any given Sunday, any team can get you. But really, the Super Bowl contenders shouldn't have gone. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even a game.
Was it a letdown after the Chiefs win the previous week? Was it, to your point, there's trends about teams playing 1 o'clock in Miami at this point in the season. I found it ironic that they said that the Bills were trying to trade for Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver for the Dolphins, and he was one of the main culprits in their loss. But Devon Achane, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, it was never close. Like, usually you're like, okay, Josh Allen's got a chance.
Yeah.
If you watch that game, you never felt like they had a chance to come back in that game. That's how bad it was.
I think when you get when you get demoralized defensively, if you don't have a stout defense, that's what I said about the Chargers last night or the other night. Truthfully, the Chargers were hitting, they were playing the game hard. When they were making contact, it was with anger. I watched that guy run through the Buffalo defense. Again, how many yards, Dave?
174.
Wow. Against the Buffalo Bills.
Slash everyone right. If you don't have a defense that can stop somebody and give you the life that you can hold them to a certain number, that's demoralizing to me. That's what it looked like to me.
And then untimely turnovers by Buffalo. So
Yep.
That said, Seattle is really talented. And you're happy about this because you're a Seahawks fan too.
I am. They're up 35-0, 22 minutes into the game. They had back-to-back defensive scores where their middle linebacker, who was subbing in for the starter who was injured the previous week, sack, fumble, and then the same player, DeMarcus Lawrence, former Cowboy, recovered both for a touchdown.
I thought it was a mistake, like it was a replay of some sort. If you weren't watching closely.
It was 35-0, 22 minutes. Sam Darnold threw the ball 12 times in the entire game. I had him in fantasy football, and I was disappointed because they didn't have to score.
But there's something the way he's running that offense, that Seattle team right now, with their defense the way they are, like an angry defense and their running game, and going into Seattle, if they get home field advantage going forward, they're going to be extremely tough. And I like it for a player like Sam Darnold, and because how he got jettisoned out in Minnesota. To me, I'm not sure sometimes what staffs are thinking, like, oh, okay, let him go. He went on and went to somewhere he's going to play. I agree not wanting to be behind McCarthy. Why would I want to be around that, especially that personality for me? He moved on, and look what they're doing in Seattle.
He needs to clean up 10 turnovers this season. That's the only area where he needs to improve. A couple fumbles on Sunday.
And he has to prove himself. I think it was something we talked about the other night too, but he has to prove himself. Like when it came down to the stretch end of last year for the Vikings, which I get, had one of those games. One of those games that it gets away from you. But what he's doing in the regular season, he has to just show it in the, so he has to show it in the playoffs. So
what are some other takeaways from the weekend in the NFL?
Well, I'll say, so Seattle plays in LA against the Rams this upcoming week. Huge game. Rams, they seem like world beaters right now. Matt Stafford is just playing. I said last week he had 21 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. Well, now it's 25 to 2 interceptions.
He looks good.
He has the second best odds to win NFL MVP, according to a lot of the websites. But I think, you look at, he had Puka Nacua last year. He had Cooper Kupp, who was hurt. Now you add Devontae Adams to that offense. It might be, I know Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, but it's one of the best wide receiver tandems in the NFL. Then you add in Kyron Williams on the ground. The defense is young. They can generate a pass rush with Jared Verse. They're going to be a tough team to beat.
That's that's the game of the week, coming up too this week. So I also think that when I look at you look at the games, and I look at even just I'm going to go. I mentioned before, Tampa Bay. They're better than the Green Bay Packers and the 49ers. Even though Green Bay's supposed to be, believe me, I picked Green Bay for Super Bowl, one of my Super Bowl picks. Right? To be there.
Which time did you do? I know you switched picks. Which time did you pick?
No. I didn't switch that one. No. I didn't switch that one.
Hey,
it was the Buffalo
Ravens
Bills.
Are back.
It was the Buffalo Bills. I switched, right? I switched from the Buffalo Bills because I didn't like the way it came across in Hard Knocks. Right? That's unfair. But now after I saw the game in Miami, maybe it wasn't a bad switch. Before the season, that is. I think Green Bay, I went with Green Bay, and I believe you lose to 2 of the worst teams in the league you've lost to. That's usually not like somebody who's going to come out there. Can't compete with Seattle and LA right now in the NFC. AFC, with the Steelers going down, now you brought in Baltimore and you brought in the Bengals, believe it or not, because I still don't think Baltimore, they've won 2 games and they're getting healthier, but they don't look that great. They just don't to me, even though maybe they're buying time, and if they stay healthy, the Ravens side, but I think you can't forget what New England's doing. That's the story in the NFL too. Huge, Dave. New England's been really good.
So if the Steelers take care of business and New England takes care of business for the Steelers, they could be up by 2 again in the division, because the Ravens are coming on, but look at New England.
Ravens minus 290 to win a division now. Think about that. They're still a game beyond the Steelers. They're favored to win that division. They have at the Browns, home against the Jets, home against the Bengals, and the Steelers are next 4. So the schedule lines up for them. They've only played one division game. They're 1-0 in division, still the 5. And I think, I mean, you can maybe argue the NFC South, but the Central and the AFC Central might be one of the worst divisions in the NFL if you look at the team. So
you could literally just roll
favors them.
Yeah, we just if you roll through the standings and look at team, and go, who's really a contender? I have to say, Kansas City, in my opinion, could be the favorite coming out of the AFC.
And we're going to talk about that on Thursday too. Real quick on the Patriots, the drive that kind of proved to me, because everybody thought, okay, this is a game that's going to catch them. You know, now they've won 7 straight. They got the ball with, it was 7:16 left in the first half. They were down 10-7. They didn't give the ball back. They scored a touchdown with time expiring. Mike Vrabel, this was, I mean, it almost backfired. They got a first down at the 1-yard line with 1:44 left. The next play they ran, Tampa was out of timeouts. The next play they ran was basically a quarterback kneel down. He was saying, we're going to score, and you're not going to get the ball back before the end of the half. They converted 4th and goal from the 1, a touchdown to end the half.
It was a tight play,
that sent a message.
Yeah,
that sent a message to his team, and that was, if we did turning points of that game, that was by far the turning point of that game.
A lot of intrigue to come.
Yep.
We thank Dave Ricchini for your wealth of knowledge. Nostradamus.
He's got the lead in our picks.
All right, now we're going to check in from 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh, part of the afternoon team. They call them the PM team with Andrew Fillipponi, Chris Muller. Andrew joins us after every Steelers game for Offset. Andrew, how you feeling?
I'm very sleep deprived. To make matters worse, I drove my wife's car through our garage door yesterday.
What?
Yeah, that happened.
Wait a minute. Hold it right there. You have a client on the air who's a garage door company, so you have this going for you, but how could you possibly do that?
So obviously the cars now are built with that sensor where if you back up, it lets you know that there's something behind you. But the problem is the door was high enough up that it didn't recognize it. So I thought I was in the clear. So I floored it to back up, and the top of her car hit the top of my garage door. Yeah.
No.
Of course, it was her car, too.
What a way to start the
Millions of
week.
stories.
And then
If I'd have known that, Andrew, I would have bet the other way last night. That's what I would have done if I'd known that happened.
And then you had to watch for the second time in 3 weeks on national television. The Steelers' offense, in this case, failed to show up in Los Angeles. So where do we start?
Well, the offense hasn't played well since the Bengals game. And the problem with that is the Bengals defense is so historically bad that you can almost chalk that up now to those are the types of things that happen when you play Cincinnati. Cincinnati made Justin Fields look like he was a great quarterback, and then they came all the way back on Chicago, and all they needed was a stop at the end of the game, and they let the Bears go 80 yards in less than a minute to win it on one big broken play. So really ever since then, you settled for field goals against Green Bay. You won, you were great against the Colts from a score standpoint, but it was all points off turnovers and takeaways, short fields. And then you had last night, which for me, I got to be honest with you, I really thought of all the bad quarterback games we've seen since Ben hurt his elbow, going back in 2019 when Duck and Mason Rudolph had to play. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I thought last night was the worst one. I don't care about that Roman Wilson touchdown at the end of the game. They had 3 points with basically minutes left on the clock. I mean, the game's way over. All the Steelers fans that were there had already left. They left thinking that they had scored 3 points. I mean, it was just one of the worst offensive displays I've ever seen by a Steelers offense and by a quarterback. Really, I thought the quarterback was the main problem last night.
Yeah, I get where you're going. I kind of feel the same. It was a completely bad outing, and I also thought, Pony. I also thought like the Chargers were the aggressor, right? They just were the aggressor. Even though, and it'll roll to the quarterback, it'll roll to Aaron Rodgers, but across the board, like every time Jalen Warren ran the ball, who was as good as anybody could play last night, he was hit and hit hard. Right? They went after it. They were on a mission to kind of beat down who should be the bully in the Steelers, and they were the ones doing that. I felt they squeezed the pocket right away, and then you're jumpy, right? You're jumpy in the pocket, you're stepping up quicker. There wasn't anything there. To me, I just thought the aggression of LA beat down whatever the Steelers were trying to offer on the offensive side. That led to everything that you just talked about, though, Pony. I thought that was part of it as well.
Well, I thought Aaron Rodgers summed it up after the game. He said that their energy was just off from the very beginning of the game offensively. And they looked like a team that, from his body language especially, he starts with the leader of the team, the quarterback, it looked like he was not in control or in command of the game whatsoever. And I think the Steelers offensively probably fed off that negatively. And to the Chargers' credit, defensively, I thought they were, you want to talk about aggressive. I thought, on a lot of those Jalen Warren runs, he paid a price where he took big hits from guys like Perryman and those linebackers from the Chargers. I thought set a real physical tone for the game. And, again, given the fact that you're playing on the road, but it's a home game because you have so many fans there, I thought it was unusual that it seemed like the Chargers were the team that played off whatever energy was in the building more than the Steelers did. I thought, I honestly don't think it was an issue with play calling at all. A lot of people want to blame Arthur Smith for this game. I don't. The only thing I would question is when Jalen Warren's your best player, not only do you only get 14 carries and then 2 catches, so 16 touches, but Kenneth Gainwell was on the field more than him last night. A lot of third downs Warren came off the field for. You might go into a game thinking that's going to be your rotation. I think when you see how he's playing, you got to scrap that and just ride him out and not play Caleb Johnson when you're backed up in your own end zone. And not just because Kenneth Gainwell's your third down back, he's going to come in the game here. No, many times safety valve, dumping the ball off to Jalen Warren was your best play in the game. And that was one thing I think they'd have to second guess themselves on from last night, big time.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers has played fairly well. He hasn't overall been the problem when the Steelers haven't been able to win. But last night, just the wheels came off. He missed throws. He admittedly overthrew DK Metcalf that should have been a touchdown early. That might have changed the complexion. Guys are dropping balls. He's under constant pressure, but he didn't look like the Aaron Rodgers we have seen. So, and everyone wants to immediately point to his age, but that doesn't change in a single week. I think the big question for a lot of Steelers fans, Andrew, and you've got the pulse of the fan base, is this team capable of winning enough games to get in the playoffs and at least win a playoff game based on what you've seen collectively to this point?
Not right now. No, I wouldn't say that at the moment. Their defense didn't play a bad football game last night, but still, it's a $160 million unit. It's supposed to be the best defense in the NFL. It wasn't even the best defense on the field last night. And they've got secondary problems now where even before guys were getting injured, Eccles is getting torched last night as the slot guy now that Ramsey's at safety. Joey Porter Jr. is dropping a ball that's thrown right to him that could have been early on a play that changed the game, much in the way that TJ Watt's strip sack did against the Colts last week. No, they do not. The Ravens look like they're going to run them down. A lot of it has to do with the schedule that they have, which is far easier than the Steelers, but also they fixed their defensive problems. Their last 3 games, they're giving up 13.9 points per game, and they forced 7 turnovers in the last 3 games. So that's 2 extra possessions per game for Lamar, and that's holding the opposition under 2 touchdowns. If they do that the rest of the way, they're not going to lose another game. Now, I don't think they will, but, for the first month of the season, Baltimore looked like it had the worst defense in the NFL. They made a trade. They changed where guys are lined up. They've gotten guys back healthy. They look like a formidable defense again. So given the way the schedule sets up, this game Sunday's huge. If they lose, if they get swept by the Bengals, I think all bets are off this season. I think Tomlin having his first losing season is in play if they lose this game. They've got to bounce back and beat a team they already lost to this year. And for Aaron Rodgers' psyche and for the confidence of the offense, they got to go out in this game Sunday afternoon and put up a lot of points.
So, Andrew, when we're all watching these games, you watch the teams that have such great quarterback play, and you look at the practice squad of the Steelers with Valdez-Scantling, they got to do something different. I mean, they have to have some other weapon. And that's not an excuse for the way this game went, but you need to take some heat off of, DK Metcalf is going to be covered all the time. He's doubled up all the time. There's no extra threat. I know what they were doing with the tight ends, but I don't know what separation. We don't see the numbers. I don't see exactly what kind of separation players are getting. But the fact of the matter is, when you're going out there with one arm in a sense and you're not getting a threat on the other side, they need something different. If they have it on the practice squad, who Rodgers is familiar with, I don't know the rules or how quick they can do that, but I think they need to make some kind of move like that to change up what we're seeing going out on the field.
Well, the rationale for Valdez-Scantling not playing last night was twofold. Number one, not being up to speed, apparently, even though they played a safety the game before that was in there for one practice, and he did fine. And Duggar, and MVS has been around forever, and obviously knows Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers can translate everything into terms he can understand, so I didn't really get that excuse. And then the other one was they wanted to call up the kid who returned punts from the practice squad instead of him because he's done a good job at that. Well, okay, that's done now because he botched a punt return late in the game, so his luck has run out. I really think for a team that tried to convince everybody that they put a lot of stock in this season because they're going with Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback, to end up with no wide receivers at the trade deadline, I think is going to come back to bite them big time. And I don't really, frankly, care or want to hear about the fact, well, Omar Khan was close. Okay, great. You're not getting awards. You're not winning games. There's no moral victories in a GM who tried. He didn't get the job done. Professional sports is not about trying. Everybody tries. Every single person that's in professional sports, 99% of them are making so much money and they've committed their entire life to doing this, where of course they're trying. Trying is the baseline. Trying is an expectation that every single fan should have of the people that have these jobs. Of course you try. Execution is what keeps people employed, and that's how you win. And he didn't, in my opinion, he didn't do enough there. You got 12 picks to work with. There were wide receivers that moved. This team was crying out for wide receiver help, and I don't buy the tight ends getting it done either. If they're going to put DK Metcalf on one side of the field by himself, and he's got safety help over the top, that means you've got one-on-one plays on the other side of the field with your tight ends and your other wide receivers. Somebody over there's got to make a play more consistently, and those guys aren't. So to me, you had your answer with the way DK Metcalf's season has gone. He has not been the $28 million receiver that they made him out to be because he doesn't have the players around him in the offense to be more productive.
Yep, I agree.
We're with Andrew Fillipponi from 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh. You look at the schedule, too, you better hope the Steelers beat the Bengals, to your point, pivotal game. Then you got to go play the Bears, who are playing really well. Then you host the Bills. Then you're at Baltimore, home against the Dolphins on a Monday night in Pittsburgh. And then on the road, Lions, also a good football team. And you close with the Browns in Cleveland, then the Ravens at home. So it's not an easy road. It doesn't get any easier after this weekend.
Barring injuries here, and I know point spreads are not the end-all be-all, but it's a good indicator or barometer of how people that are informed and neutral, objective, feel about your football team. They're going to be a favorite in 3 games the rest of the way. They're going to be favored against the Bengals on Sunday. They already are 5.5 points. They'll be favored against the Dolphins at home on a Monday night, and they'll be favored against the Browns on the road. And they'll be an underdog in the rest of their games. They'll be a small underdog against the Bears on the road. They'll be an underdog at home against Buffalo. They'll be an underdog on the road at Detroit, obviously. And unless Baltimore sits guys in Week 18, they'll be an underdog in both of those Ravens games. Now, that's saying that they can't, they can win some of those games. They were an underdog against the Colts and won. But the point is, it's now going to take them doing something unlikely to finish with a winning record. And it's going to take them doing something more unlikely to get to 10 or 11 wins, which, at that point, you'd say they're a lock to make the playoffs. 9-8 is not a lock to make the playoffs right now. That would mean Baltimore would have to lose 3 more games, and at least one of them would have to be to you. And barring injuries again, like Lamar Jackson getting hurt or something like that, I don't think you can bank on it with the Steelers team. The Steelers team really, over the last few weeks here, we've seen the defense get better, closer to average. We've seen the offense come back to average to below average. And when you're really not good or great at anything, it's hard to fathom a team like that, A, making the playoffs and B, doing damage once they get there.
Yeah, Andrew, one more thing, and just on the Steelers, and we can probably close that part up, but I just can't remember seeing a team, if you're looking at it each and every week, where you're not sure what you're going to get. Like, what is you traveled east to west, you're in LA, and as we've talked throughout this little episode here, you look like it was nowhere near the same team. I mean, where do you look? I mean, as far as leadership and what needs to take place, and I just can't remember a team looking where you're not from week to week. What are you going to get? It's a problem for everybody.
Well, Cincinnati is the worst run defense in the entire NFL. So I would get back to that immediately for this game. I would get a lot of those jumbo packages going, and I would establish Jalen Warren right off the bat here. And I would tell my guys basically this week, here are the numbers on the Bengals. I challenge them. If we can't run the ball against them, we might as well just pack it up and call it a day, because this defense is crying out for you to go in there. It's on your home turf. You're pissed off because you lost. You've got a lot more to play for than them. If you can't get up for this game offensively, if we can't move them off the ball, then something's wrong. And we stink as coaches, and you guys aren't the players we thought you were. So that would be my message to them this week. And that would be my identity for this week. And then worry about the Bears when you get to the Bears game. But right now, if you can't go out there and basically be the more physical team that pushes them around, then you're not doing diddly squat this year. So that to me is where it starts. Jalen Warren's playing good football right now. We're going to make Sunday afternoon against the Bengals a Jalen Warren game.
However, to be clear, you're not betting any body parts on this game.
I mean, I'm confident in the Steelers, but I've learned my lesson. I wouldn't, I won't, but I'm tempted to, but I'm not going to. I mean, to Jay's point, you can't trust this team right now. I mean, you'd think because they just got embarrassed that they would show up for this game on Sunday and they'd want to get revenge on Joe Flacco, but who knows with them.
ESPN's College Game Day with Pat McAfee comes to Pittsburgh Saturday. It's Pitt, Notre Dame at noon. How about Pitt showing up last week, 24th on the college football playoff poll, and showing up 23rd this week overall, ripping off 5 straight wins and the national attention Pitt's getting. Your thoughts on that game? They're the underdogs to the Fighting Irish.
We talked about this. I told you guys a month ago that if Pitt took care of business, which, was not a given Pitt's history, that this Notre Dame game would be a huge game. Now, I did not think necessarily that game day would come here when you've got Texas and Georgia playing on the same day, but it's coming for the first time in 20 years. I mean, I don't count the backyard brawl game because that was a Thursday night and it didn't have the same hoopla of, people show like 5 hours beforehand and everything else. It was a weeknight game to kick off the season, but it's an opportunity for Pitt to show people that they're not like a paper champion team right now that's beaten ACC lightweights, and they've gotten themselves to a good record because they've been able to take care of the soft underbelly of the ACC. They're going up against a team that's in do or die mode. Notre Dame can't make the playoffs if they lose another game. As bad as the committee wants to get Notre Dame in, they can't get them in with 3 losses because they played their 2 big games early in the year and they lost both to Miami and Texas A&M. So Notre Dame needs to run the table. And it's cool that not only is Pitt, they're not just in a spoiler mode here, because if they win and they win their next 2 games, they're going to go to the ACC championship game and they're going to have a shot at the college football playoff, which is just insane given how things went back in September when they lost that game at West Virginia. So, look, obviously the Steelers game is a big one too, but the game Saturday feels like a bigger one now because of what happens with the Notre Dame presence and the 70,000 people and then some that'll be down there. and then you throw game day and McAfee and all that stuff on top of it. And it's going to be about as good on paper as of a football weekend as we've seen at Acrisure Stadium since that place opened.
All right. On that note, we appreciate your time as always, Andrew. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Be well.
Andrew Filipponi from 93.7 The Fan. We want to thank Andrew and also Odyssey Pittsburgh, Michael Spacciapoli, along with Brian Hess and the One Team Media who produces this great podcast. Offset, right, Jay?
It's very good, Larry. Yeah, and we also want to thank Rourke Automotive, the Rourke Automotive Group with the Rourke Advantage, lifetime state inspections, lifetime oil change, extended engine warranty. Thank you for being a part of it. Also, Tom Grillish and Henderson Brothers for being another title sponsor for us. Can't thank you enough.
Tom Grealish has been a great supporter and has helped the Mary Lemieux Foundation with his company, Henderson Brothers, when it comes to protecting what matters most. Whether it's your business, your people, and your future, it's more than just an insurance company. Experience the power of partnership, hendersonbrothers.com. Offset, Larry and the Big Man, and that's a wrap.